When alignment is an illusion, the real reason execution breaks. The room went quiet, not because there were no opinions, but because every opinion contradicted the last. The strategy had just been approved. The board had voted unanimously. The CEO closed her notebook, and yet no one moved. That silence was not confidence. It was uncertainty disguised as alignment. This was a familiar room. Senior executives, sharp minds, impressive track records. The strategy on the table was strong: market expansion, operational efficiency, digital transformation. The language was polished. The slides were elegant. Every benchmark checked out. And yet 6 months later, performance lagged. 12 months later, execution stalled. 18 months later, the same strategy was being revisited. Not because it was wrong, but because it never truly lived outside the boardroom. Most leaders recognize this moment. A good strategy that quietly fails, not with drama, but with drift. As the postmortem began, the opinions arrived immediately. The teams didn't move fast enough. The incentives weren't strong. We underestimated resistance. The market changed. Execution is always the hard part. Each statement was intelligent. Each was defensible. None created clarity. The discussion expanded, not converged. Momentum increased, but direction did not. What looked like an execution problem was, in fact, a thinking problem. Not a lack of intelligence, a lack of lens. Opinions filled the room, but nothing was in focus. Then someone asked a different question. Not louder, not smarter, just structurally different. Who exactly was expected to behave differently because of this strategy? The room paused again. This time the silence was productive. They reviewed the strategy, not as a document, but as a system of behavior. What decisions were supposed to change? What trade-offs were leaders expected to make differently? What existing incentives were quietly fighting the strategy? In that moment, clarity entered chaos. They realized the strategy was directionally sound, but behaviorally vague. It described where the organization wanted to go. It never specified how people were supposed to act differently on Monday morning. The conversation shifted. Execution plans were no longer task lists. They became behavior maps. Leadership roles were redefined, not by titles but by decisions owned. Incentives were redesigned, not to reward effort but to enforce trade-offs. Communication changed, from inspiration to expectation. The strategy did not change. The lens did, and execution followed. Not perfectly, but decisively. This is the execution lens. Execution does not fail because strategies are complex. It fails because strategies are abstract. A strategy that does not clearly alter behavior is not a strategy. It is a direction. The execution lens asks, what must people stop doing? What decisions move closer to the front line? What trade-offs are no longer optional? Strategy begins where certainty ends. Execution begins where ambiguity is removed. Good strategies fail when they inspire agreement, but fail to enforce choice. Opinions fill rooms. Lenses focus them. The quality of execution is limited by the clarity of the lens used to design it. If your strategy keeps failing at execution, pause before blaming people, culture, or discipline. Ask instead, what lens shaped this strategy, and what did it fail to make visible? Most leaders do not need better ideas. They need better ways of seeing. And that is the work we do here. Not debating conclusions, but refining lenses. If this way of thinking resonates, stay with the channel. Because strategy is not about being right. It is about being useful when the room goes quiet.